Good evening. I call to order this regular joint meeting of the Minnehaha County and Sioux Falls Planning Commissions, and I will begin with a few introductory comments. I'm Bonnie Duffy. I am the chair for the county, and Larry Litke is here for the city. As a courtesy to everyone here tonight, please make sure that all cell phones are turned off. Please note that tonight's Planning Commission meeting will be rebroadcast via CityLink and posted on the www.minnehahacounty.org site for viewing by the general public. The two planning commissions work together on land use and zoning matters within the rural area surrounding the city. This area is displayed on the screen. When this joint hearing is completed, the joint Sioux Falls and County Planning Commissions will adjourn, and the next regular business meeting will begin to consider items beyond the joint zoning jurisdiction with Sioux Falls. Any final action taken on the conditional use permit applications tonight will take effect 5 working days following this meeting unless a written appeal of the Planning Commission's decision is filed in the Planning Office by Monday, July 29th, 2019 at 5 p.m. In the event of an appeal, the decision will be referred to the County Commission and City Council for a joint hearing on Tuesday, August 27th, 2019 at or after 5 p.m. That meeting is held in Carnegie Town Hall at 235 West 10th Street. Action taken on the final development plan will be final. First on the agenda is public input. Is there anyone who wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? At this time, the Planning Commission will consider the consent agenda, and items on the consent agenda are perceived to be non-controversial and meet all of the requirements of the codes and regulations. The consent agenda will be acted on in one motion with no public hearing on the items unless a member of the public, the commission, or staff requests the item be removed from the consent agenda. The minutes from the June 24th meeting are included in the consent agenda. Does any Planning Commission member wish to have an item removed for discussion? Next, I'll read each item on the consent agenda and ask if there are any issues or comments from the staff or the audience. If any member of the staff or the audience would like to be heard on an item, please raise your hand, and the item will be moved to the regular agenda to allow you to address the commission later in the meeting. Any other items on the consent agenda will be approved by the Planning Commission with the conditions recommended by staff. Item number 1 is the approval of minutes of June 24th, 2019. Any changes on that?
I'll make a motion, Bonnie.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that Kurt Johnson was here. He is not on the minutes of the last meeting.
Okay. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor with his name that was not represented on the minutes? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes.
I can make a motion to amend the attendance record for June 24th, adding Kurt Johnson to the roster.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes on the same side.
Thank you. Item number 2 is conditional use permit 19-33 to allow a rubble dump for a tree grinding operation on the property legally described as the north 400 feet, the south 433 feet, the east 700 feet, and the west 766 feet, the southwest quarter, section 14, township 102, north, range is 49 west. The petitioner is Eric Willitson from Willitson Lund Engineering. Property owner is Michael Williams. Location is just east of the intersection at 476th Avenue and East 84th Street North. Okay, since there's, do I have a motion to approve the other item on the consent agenda?
So move.
I'll second.
Okay.
I'll second it.
A motion made and seconded to approve item number 2 for continual use permit 19-33. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes.
What you said?
Motion to approve item number 2.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes on the same side.
If your item has been approved, you're free to go. Move on to the regular agenda, the final development plan, 19-02.
Good evening, Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. Item number 3 is the final development plan, number 1904, for petitioners Brent Driscoll. It's for a final development plan located approximately 1 mile east of Sioux Falls, at the intersection of state highways 11 and 42. This is a continuation of the Joint Planning Commission item that was held on June 24th, 2019. Since that item was deferred, staff has been reviewing materials and working with the petitioner on his proposal. City staff has updated a new comment letter, and that comment letter does have an approval recommendation from the City of Sioux Falls. I'll just remind everybody what the site plan looks like. So the final development plan is for a warehouse and office building located on a lot in the subdivision there. The plan does meet the county standards for this final development plan, with some questions about plating that are still to do. And that was part of the discussion with city staff and the petitioner on moving forward with planning. But we have decided as a staff that we are okay with approving this portion of the development and the final development plan. So unless anybody has any questions, direct questions, I guess we can kind of leave it at that and have the petitioner come up as well.
Any questions for Kevin? Thank you.
Yep.
As a petitioner here, will you please come forward, state your name and address, please?
Name is Brent Driscoll, address 48068 Iverson Crossing Road, Brandon, South Dakota. I'm becoming a familiar face with you guys. I apologize for that part of it, but just a couple things I want to comment on. I want to thank everybody that I've been working with the city and the county. They've done a great job of educating me on the process of what needs to be done and some of the changes that have happened due to the joint boundaries being changed. Our hurdles now that we have going forward, and I guess I would kind of yield to both panels here on maybe your opinion on how this maybe could be helped in the process down the road. One of the hurdles that we're running into is basically a platting fee that's been implemented due to that joint jurisdiction, and that platting fee is for obviously your street sewer services that the city would bring to that location. The problem that we're running into is that where my facility is the proposed location for it is so far out, and it's on the east side of the Big Sioux River, that the current plan is not to cross the river with any of those advancements and services 2040 plus. Okay, so we're talking 21 years, right? So what's being asked of individuals like myself in this case would be to fork up $30,500 right now in order to be able to get the right to plat and proceed with building my business on this location with no guarantee that the services will ever be out there, ever provided, or I'll ever be able to utilize them. Obviously, there's multiple things that play into that. If you just figured out what that would be, 21 years, that 5% return, your return on investment is like $54,000. I would lose the opportunity if I invested that money in something else, and then when they came out with those services, then you could obviously pay for those services when they get there. The additional negative part to it is that being that I can't get those services, but I have to pay for them, I have to put in temporary services. So I have to get rural water. They have hookup fees, okay? I have to put in a septic system. There's engineering fees, septic installation fees, and things like that. So I'm paying for kind of basically a Band-Aid, plus I'm paying for those services up front, and there's no guarantee I'm going to get them. We are in communication with the correct departments. that are hopefully going to rule on that. But I just wanted to bring it to the panel's attention and maybe get your guys' opinions on that, because this is going to happen in other areas and maybe even out in that area where I'm at, where this is going to keep coming up. And if they keep trying to apply that standard, there's going to be a lot of negative feedback due to this problem. And I don't know if you want to address, there's one other thing that I wanted to kind of bring to the attention that is not as big of a deal, but it's the access for this particular piece of land. And I don't know if you want to, can I mess with your computer here? Oh, he's got control. So as you can see there with the red odd-shaped, almost triangle there, what's been asked is that there would be 3 accesses to that property along the east road there, which is County Road 115. There's one that already exists that kind of dissects it. It kind of sits in the middle right now. And being that it's planned to have 6 lots there, what's been proposed is that there would be a shared access per 2 lot. So you'd have 3 accesses. So in this case, the numbering of the lot is 3, 4, 5, 6, up like that. So like 3 and 4 would share an access, okay? And so what's being debated is whether or not that would have any detriment, there we go, thank you, Kevin, detriment to any traffic that comes off of Highway 42, but if it was based on the fact of the traffic on County Road 115, that is a very low volume traffic. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this area, but once County Road 11 comes down, it actually goes to the west and heads into town, and then it turns into 115 and goes south. It actually goes down and tees off onto if you took a right turn, it would be a gravel road. If you took a left turn, that's the tar that actually goes out and hits the casino out there, okay? So that is, other than residents in that area, everybody sticks to Highway 42. So it's very low volume. So we've obviously, and I'm not asking for a ruling here, but I'm just wanting to bring it up and get your guys' opinion on, going forward, how this situation is it the fact of the volume of the traffic, or is it County Road 42? How you guys would feel that should be assessed and ruled on, because it's kind of hard to have just one access, right? Because then you're playing with easements across all the front of those lots. Maintenance, how do people access it? It would restrict. You'd have to push your buildings back, because you'd have to allow for that additional 28 feet of easement, basically a easement path for that traffic. So those were the 2 things I just wanted to bring up, and if you guys had any comments on it.
Anybody have any comments? Jeff?
Madam Chair, Mr. Driscoll, I appreciate you bringing these concerns. Honestly, I might be able to do something on the county highway part, but the other stuff is probably more tied up in city regulations, et cetera. And I think that all of these types of things cannot really be fixed by these panels. They're all political things which need to be brought to the entities involved, and the bureaucrats can't change the rules, but I think that the elected officials are the interface between the government and the citizen, and so that's the course I would recommend. And I'll talk to Scott about the highway thing. I may not be able to do a thing about it, but we'll look into it.
The planning fees are city planning fees.
Yes.
Yep.
That, I want to make sure that it's known.
So at that point, you need to talk to the mayor's office and,
Right.
whoever's going to be representing that area 40 years from now.
Exactly. And thank you for your input. And that we do have the correct parties engaged on this. It's just that it seems like it takes so long, you know what I mean? Because they want to put this standard in that covers everybody. And I understand that sometimes it's easier to do it that way because then you have one rule for everybody. But there are scenarios where this just doesn't, when you apply common sense to it, it just doesn't make sense to require that money so far in advance with actually no guarantee, because we've asked them, so can you give me water service? Can you give me, curb and gutter, the sewer system and stuff like that. And they said, no. And they said, is there any plans? And they said, no. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of hard to write that check and say, here you go, you know what I mean? And hope it gets out there someday. So that's the tough part. But thank you all for listening. I appreciate it.
Madam Chair,
Oh, go ahead.
I got one question. Brent, on this map that's up here right now, where, I'm familiar with that area, really familiar.
Close.
Where's that driveway at right now that kind of goes back into that area?
It's proximity of
Between, is it like?
5 and 6.
Between 5 and 6.
Yep. Eric, is that about right? Yeah. Yep.
1 and 2, that's
Riviera.
Riviera.
Yep. Correct.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Any other questions, I guess?
I
Sorry.
guess I have one.
Yeah.
I know, I'm familiar with that area too, because I don't live too far from there, but
Yep.
the Riviera out there must have got their entities, so that they have like sewer, water, and whatever. You can't tap onto any of that, that's,
Oh, there.
They're
with them?
septic and rural water
Oh, okay.
also. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah, that would be great. If the services were there, I would definitely want to utilize them. But there's no proposal, and we know the expenses of crossing the river, right? The Big Sioux River. Yeah, so, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other comments from the audience? Please state your name and address, please.
Eric Willardson Lund Engineering, Brent's engineer. I found out today from DENR, his septic system has been approved for the site, and the owner of the property, who has an agreement with Brent for Lot 4, has met with the city on the access points along the county highway. Because it's joint jurisdictional, we'll work with the county and the city. But those are underway and will conform to whatever comes of what's required for access.
Okay, any questions for him? Thanks, Eric.
Albert Schmidt, Sioux Falls Planning Office. Just a quick clarification question or comment for you. So the recommendation for approval with the condition that the parcel must be platted prior to a building permit being issued is kind of a way for us to help get past this monthly meeting and deferring and have the issues addressed. So we're looking at, with that, I mean, with platting, then you have to get approval from our engineering side. So you have to do the engineering design standards and get that approved through that, which hasn't been submitted or approved yet. But with that process, that's when we look at accesses and city standards and those kind of things. And so through that process, that's when they'll identify, are these accesses appropriate for the future build out of this location? Because when they approve an access, it's very costly and hard to remove an access later on. So they take that very seriously, and our goal of having these areas included in joint jurisdiction is to be preemptive and looking out to try to delay or help out any areas where we could be impacting them in the future in much more negative way if we don't try to address these situations now. And so again, with that parcel being platted, that's a statement from our side trying to say, look, this needs to go through the DEP process before they can get that plat approved. And so this way it just allows this board, this body to say, hey, we approve this on this general idea. This use is appropriate here. It's zoned to, the PUD has that use in there. We're good. But then allows for the applicant and staff to then make sure that all the other items can be addressed through that process. So I'll take any questions you may have on that, but I just wanted to make sure I was clear on this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? Guess I'll close the floor. Commissioners?
Madam Chair, I'll
Yeah.
make a motion to approve final development plan number 19-04.
Second.
Okay, a motion's made and seconded to approve the final development plan 19-04. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Motion passes on the county side.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion to approve the item, but with the recommended parcel being plotted prior to building permit being issued.
Second.
So a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously, so.
Thank you. Looks like we have no old business, no new business. Need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes on the county side.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
A motion and a second to adjourn. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Adjourn.
Thank you.